'cause you had a bad day. You take it one down, you sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know, you tell me don't lie. You work on a smile and you go for a ride. You had a bad day, the camera don't lie. You come back down, you really don't mind. You had a bad day.
Over the middle, it's intercepted.
You had a bad
Geno
day.
Stone on the run, looking for a block. Stone into the end zone. Bengal touchdown.
Alright, hello everybody, it's me here, Mr. Truth, and in today's video, I wanted to do a full season review of Tennessee Titans quarterback Will Levis. Now, let's just get straight into this, no nonsense, no BS. I'm getting straight into it. Now, Will Levis was a quarterback drafted out of the University of Kentucky in the second round by the Titans. Was supposed to be a first round pick, but fell due to some concerns. And the Titans just so happened to trade up to try to snag him, hoping that he would one day become their franchise signal caller. Had very, very high hopes for Levis developing into something truly special in the National Football League. Now, what were the expectations for this season? Let's get straight into that for not only the Titans, but for Will Levis as a whole. Now, Levis had a pretty solid rookie campaign, did have some turnover issues. You know, wasn't really the greatest when it comes to certain aspects of quarterbacking, which we'll get into a bit later in the video. But his rookie season was filled with a lot of promise, a lot of potential, showing that he could potentially be the franchise guy for the next decade for the Tennessee Titans at quarterback. But the expectations going into this year was for this Will Levis-led offense to improve with not only upgrades to the offensive line room, but also to the wide receiver room as well. Getting him some line support and getting him some new weapons and new sort of toys to play with was supposed to help him take this sort of jump. And also the Titans fired Mike Vrabel to hire offensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals, Brian Callahan, during the off-season cycle. Now, Levis was expected to take that second-year leap that some young, upcoming, and promising quarterbacks happen to take with upgrades around them and a full year of experience under their belt. Now, Levis was more seen as a boom or bust quarterback heading into this season, but most Tennessee Titans fans actually had pretty high hopes for the guy, fully anticipating Levis to take his game to the next level and make the Tennessee Titans once again a competitive team. That doesn't necessarily mean they would win 11, 12, games or whatever the hell. That just means that they would compete, they would have competitive games with teams that, we're seen as sort of better than they are. Those were the expectations for this season for Will Levis at quarterback, for him to take a big jump in his sophomore year in the National Football League. Now let's see how it played out. How exactly did it play out? Will Levis' season was a complete and total disaster. Now, Levis started off the season on a very atrocious note. I mean atrocious. Against a formidable Chicago defense, throwing two horrible interceptions, which basically single-handedly cost Tennessee that entire game, as their defense up to that point had played very, very well, keeping them afloat in the game. Levis just could not get the job done against Chicago. Now, the early season misery for Levis didn't just end there, folks, as in his first 3 games of the season, Will Levis had a combined 8 turnovers on the year. Egregious numbers. Then Levis suffered a shoulder injury against the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football, which, by the way, was in a game where he threw a horrible interception on one of his very first passing attempts of the game. Now, 3 weeks later, Will Levis made his grand return and had a pretty decent performance against the Los Angeles Chargers, although, let's be honest, a portion of his yards and one of his touchdowns came in what was essentially garbage time when the game was already decided. Now, after a pretty bad game he played against Minnesota during Week 11, Levis bounced back and played a great game against one of the NFL's best defenses in the Houston Texans. But after this seemingly pretty damn good performance against a high-level, opponent, a really good team, this is where the Will Levis train had officially, completely derailed. Levis played an absolutely abhorrent game against Washington, followed by another awful game against one of the league's worst teams and defenses in the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then the penultimate horse shit performance happened. The fateful 3-interception game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who have one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL, where Will Levis was benched midway through the game for veteran quarterback Mason Rudolph. Now, right after this game, head coach Brian Callahan had enough. He announced that Mason Rudolph would be the full-time starter from then on out, barring any sort of injury. That's how this season went for Will Levis at quarterback. To say that it was not very good at all is the understatement of a damn lifetime. This was a modern-day NFL quarterback tragedy playing out right before our very eyes. But hey, let's look on the bright side. What did he do well? What did Will Levis, the Titans quarterback, do well this season? Almost absolutely nothing. Almost absolutely nothing, folks. Honestly, all I can really say positively is that he had 2 solid games against the Chargers and 1 really good game against Houston. But that's probably it, to be honest with you. He did make a few impressive deep throws and tight window passes here, there, and everywhere, but other than this, he was mainly straight up terrible for the entire duration of the season when he was starting. Now let's get into what went wrong. What, possibly could have went wrong. Everything that could have possibly went wrong. I'm dead fucking serious. Levis completely struggled in every facet of the game. This includes reading coverages, processing information, getting the ball out quickly out of his hands, and just his accuracy in ball placement in general. He looked completely blind and oblivious to any sort of pressure when he was standing in the pocket. He was basically a statuesque pocket quarterback with no functional mobility whatsoever. He just straight up refused to tuck the ball and run with it when we had egregiously large running lanes. And as you could probably imagine with this style of play, this would result in him getting sacked a mind-boggling amount of times, taking 40 sacks in just 10 full starts, which averages out to a ridiculous 4 sacks per game. Now, if you equate that to a full 17-game stretch, a full 17-game season, if Levis had completed all 17 games without being put in a damn body bag, he would have been sacked 68 times, which would rank him top 5 all-time in the single-season sacks category for a quarterback. Now, Levis was also good for essentially 2 blunderous mistakes and turnovers per game, which would cost his team any real chance of actually winning, which is the thing you're supposed to do in the NFL, is win fucking games. Now, Levis's inability to process defensive coverages and his tendency to stare down wide receivers was the main cause of his turnover bug this season, as he would routinely telegraph throws, which would result in easy pick sixes for the defense. You get a touchdown, everybody gets a touchdown. He also would tend to freeze up in the pocket, which would result in huge losses for very easy sacks for the defense. Do I seriously need to keep going with this guy? I don't think I do. But hey, once again, you gotta look at the bright side. Let's look forward. Looking forward, Will Levis has almost certainly zero future as a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's nothing positive to say. Levis's highs are pretty high, to be fair, but his lows are so astoundingly low that no competent NFL organization or franchise would even dare taking the risk of starting Levis for a full 17-game season. His complete ineptitude at basically every single important aspect of quarterbacking is going to completely impede teams from giving him a fair shake as a full-time starter in the NFL. Now, combine this with that stupid Mayo commercial that runs on TV all the fucking time, and I'm fairly confident that the NFL and NFL teams in general are slowly but surely getting sick and tired of seeing Will Levis. Levis also turns 26 years of age next season, so just to keep piling on the guy's downfall, he's going to be a pretty damn old third-year player in the NFL. I think it's almost safe to say that Levis has peaked as a player, and there's almost no shot that he gets any better anytime soon. Now, in closing, folks, Will Levis is atrocious and should never, and I mean this from the bottom of my fucking heart, never ever start another game in the National Football League again. He does not have the talent or the mental side of the game down enough to ever be a good starting caliber quarterback in the National Football League. And that is that. It's wraps, folks. Thank you all for watching this video. This has been Mr. Truth, and this was nothing but the truth.